Okay, so cattle releasing ammonia into environment could be soil. Therefore, 2 is correct for sure. So I get to strike off 1. Any other thing, guys? Agricultural soil releases nitrogen oxide into environment. Poultry industry releases reactive nitrogen compound into the environment. It's actually a tough one. This question appears to be simple, but it's a little tough because you could get it wrong very easily. 1 is correct. Okay. Any specific point on this, Shawnli? One being correct. Does it go back to our notes in any way, or have you read it somewhere? If you can, explain the rationale, it will, we can discuss it as a group, as a team. So once again, I request you to go back to nitrogen. Okay, go back to the nitrogen cycle, and once you read nitrogen cycle, you will be fairly convinced that especially this part, we are all talking of nitrogen here. Yeah, we are all talking of nitrogen. You have nitrates. Okay, which is not exactly nitrogen oxides, but you do see that NO in the soil. Yeah, somewhat. So I think this is the kind of correlation that we need to do for us to able to have some amount of confidence. So what I'll do is I'll classify this statement as a high probability statement. HP is high probability. Yeah. So 1 is a high probability. Now the good thing is I have striked off option A, and if I say one is a high probability statement, then this kind of directly helps me to strike off these two. Yeah. Correct. Nitrogen oxide released from fertilizer that is applied to the soil. Nitrogen oxide can also come through this ammonia getting converted to nitrite getting converted to nitrate, and from there the denitrification bacteria acting on it and releasing nitrogen. But somewhere you will get into the zone that nitrogen oxides being present in the soil and they getting released is not a low probability event. Yeah, I know this is a tough one, but then that is UPSC. So if you look at it, I think most probably it should be answer D. And how did we arrive at it? We arrived A by making this as a high probability statement. So it started with Bhavna, and then I took the nitrogen cycle and showed you that this is indeed a high probability statement. So we struck off option A. Then we had 3 options. Then we moved, because let's say 3 we were not sure. Yeah, 3 we were not sure. So we looked at 1, and we also felt that 1 is also a high probability statement. Then the only option which is high probability both for 1 and 2 is option D. Okay. Good, guys. Let's move on to the next question. Recently there was growing awareness. Yeah, so this is a very recently means current affairs. Yeah, if anyone has read this part of current affairs, 2021, anyone who's given 2021 or has because this is a very direct current affairs. I have not taught it because we kind of started it from Jan. Yeah, so we'll not spend too much time. If you have read it, the answer in this case is textile fiber. Yeah, so this is the answer. So this is one of those fact-based questions. You know it, you answer it. Unlike the previous one where not knowing is not sufficient, you also have to zero in on. Okay. Yeah, this is an interesting question, guys. Take 30 seconds, and I want someone to tell me the approach. This is a doable question if you have a high-level overview of forest area size of the various states. This is a very good doable analytical question, guys. Can someone tell me what is the approach? And now this also brings us to the importance of where would you have found this in the first place? Forest cover, percentage states. Did we discuss something to do with states and forest cover? If so, what was the topic? MP has many national parks. Very good. So forest cover. Good. Yeah, Indian State of Forest Report. Excellent, Abhishek and Prachi. So you're right. So we have discussed this. Okay, we have discussed this. Now, but that will not help you solve this question. Okay, that's the unfortunate reality. Can someone what is it that is asking? Are they asking absolute area or are they asking a ratio? Exactly. They have asked percentage or not total, but what Prachi has also said is relevant. I'll tell you where what she has said becomes relevant. Okay. So now we all agree. Yeah, Bhavna says Chhattisgarh has more forest. So every aspirant is going to be in that stage. He will imagine, okay, Chhattisgarh means we generally think, okay, a lot of forest dwellers and tribals. Okay, so it looks like it has a lot of forest. Madhya Pradesh, as Prachi very rightly said, national parks, tiger reserves, a lot of them. But the problem with Madhya Pradesh is that its area is also large. Then I come to Maharashtra. Maharashtra, where yeah, not much forest. Western Ghats a little bit on the western side, and on Vidarbha I have some Tadoba National Park and some of the other forest corridors. So that is one. Odisha. Odisha is a interesting case. We all generally tend to think of Odisha as very high temperature kind of a state, high heat, high rainfall, but it also has very high biodiversity, especially on the north, means not on the coastal side, means the interior Odisha. Yeah, it has good biodiversity. So let's first try to map what this is asking. Okay, percentage. So what are they saying? Percentage of forest cover. So percentage of forest cover is equal to area of forest divided by area of the state. Am I right? Okay, just remember this. Now let's look at the area of the state. Can someone help me arrange the area of the states from highest to lowest? Well, let me say rank 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 is highest rank. Which one do you think will have the highest area among these 4? So you can tell me, MP or Maharashtra or Odisha is 1. Highest area? Any idea? Maharashtra, MP, Chhattisgarh? No, I'm talking of highest area of the state. Yeah, MP. Yeah, so it is MP. So MP is 1. But it can be highly confusing because when I actually looked at the difference between the area of Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh is 3.08 lakh square kilometer. Maharashtra is 3.07 lakh square kilometer. So extremely close. Doesn't matter. What is the third one, guys? Can someone tell me which one is you think is going to be the third one? Any idea? Odisha. Yeah. To me also it is Odisha. I have not checked, guys. You can check it. Chhattisgarh is 4. Excellent, guys. Which means, so this is your area. Okay. And what do you think is going to be the area of the forest? In which one do you think is the area of forest, let's say high among these 4? Just tell what the area of the forest. Area of forest, MP has more national park than Maharashtra. Okay, I'm not able to fully understand. But yes, what I would do is I would say here this forest area of Chhattisgarh, I would call it as high forest area. I'll even call Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh as high forest area. Okay. Then between Maharashtra and Odisha, I would take Odisha as the second high forest area, Maharashtra as the third highest forest area. Okay. Now it becomes very clear. If you look at it, what are we asking? We are asking for the ratio, area of forest by area of state, which means more the area of, okay, and here what are they asking? In ascending order. Ascending means lowest to highest. That is ratio, this, which means the lowest one is the one where the area of state has to be high and area of forest has to be low. Which are the likely candidate, guys? Here let's start with the answer now. Lowest may, according to you, which of the states are a likely candidate? Means area of the state is very high but the area of forest is very low. Exactly, Maharashtra. You're right, Prachi. I would also tend to go with Maharashtra. Good. So there is a unanimity in this. Maharashtra. Okay. So we start with Maharashtra. Let's leave one Maharashtra ratio less, and this is less. This is less. Okay. Which state do you think will be on the other side, guys? That is highest. The area is relatively small. Okay, but the forest area can be relatively high. Yeah, excellent. So we seem to be having a unanimous viewpoint here also. That becomes Chhattisgarh. Now look at it. Maharashtra starts with 3, ends with 1. And luckily for us, there is only one option which does that. So UPSC has not tried to confuse us too much here. So if you're able to even understand the highest and lowest, we can save ourselves the trouble of trying to go and find out what is number 2 and number 3. What has helped us here? What has really helped us here is a broad appreciation of the area of various states. Okay. Now, if you look at what we have studied, so that also I'll just share with you. Indian State of Forest Report. Yeah. So this was 2019 that we studied. So we looked at a lot of points here. Area-wise, Madhya Pradesh. Area-wise, Madhya Pradesh has the largest forest cover, but percentage. Okay, so in this percentage-wise, they're saying Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Manipur, Nagaland. Luckily, they have not included any of the northeast states in the option. Otherwise, we would have been doomed. Because look at it, percentage-wise, the states that have been given in the option, they do not come in the top 5. So it is extremely important. What would have happened if someone has just memorized this? Suppose he or she is extremely good in memorizing. That person would have memorized that Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Manipur, Nagaland. That much he would have memorized and gone to the hall. He would have been for a shocker because even the Indian State of Forest Report does not mention. So what has helped us here is the fact that we've been able to follow a very logical, systematic, analytical approach. Yeah, which has helped us to arrive at the right answer. This is an indication that sometimes pure knowledge or information assimilation alone will not help you. Okay, I think this was a good question that way, which helps us to encourages us to analyze it better. Okay, so the answer is C. So this point I have not taken in the class. I realized that. So I have just added one slide after this question. But whoever, it's quite possible that you would have anyway read, irrespective of me teaching it or not. Does anyone know about anything about methane hydrate, guys? Methane hydrate? Or let's go to the. Oh, okay. It's releasing tomorrow. So which means we need to update it. Thank you, Bishanji. Thank you for letting me know. Come on, guys. I need someone typing something or unmuting and telling me something. 30 seconds is all that you can take for the first reading, guys, not more than that. Methane trapped inside ice. Excellent, Bhavna. Where did you read this, Bhavna? Methane trapped inside ice. That's called as methane hydrate. Where did you read it? If you can share with the team. Yeah, I mean, internet is fine, but any specific site? Yeah, permafrost. Good. So you guys are giving me some clue. Now, let's assume, not assume, I think both are confident. Methane trapped inside ice and permafrost as the two keywords. Now, with this, can you move on to the next step, guys? Which options are most probably right or most probably wrong? Okay. Now, let me go. Global warming might trigger. Okay, so when they say might, they are talking of a possibility or a probability. Okay, so whenever they talk of a probability, I will not outrightly reject the option. Okay, so what we'll do in today's class, we will try and classify each statement according to us. Each one may be different. Low probability, medium probability, high probability. How do we do that, sir? It is completely subjective. Okay, but I am going to follow this approach. Okay, global warming might trigger the release of methane gas from these deposits. Okay. I'll start with this as a medium probability. Sounds possible, but I have no clue. Let's say I have no clue. I have not studied this. Okay. Second one, large deposits of methane hydrate are found in Arctic tundra and under sea floor. Now, if I were Abhishek or Bhavna, I would place this question under this statement under high probability. Do you agree? Methane hydrate is found in Arctic tundra because Abhishek used the word permafrost and Bhavna also used a similar thing. So I will place 2 under a high probability. Methane in atmosphere oxidizes to carbon dioxide after a decade or 2. Okay, so this they are saying might. Methane oxidizes to carbon dioxide after a decade or 2. It's a very generically given generic statement. So what I do, I take my basic science and I try to just write this equation. Okay, methane oxidizes after a decade or 2 to form carbon dioxide. I say, yeah, this seems possible, but I have no clue. So what I'll do, I'll put this once again in medium probability. Okay. Now what I've got 2 medium probability statement and 1 high probability statement. So what I'm going to do, 2 for sure is there. So I'm able to strike off only one option, but that's okay. Yeah, something is better than nothing. Now I come across another interesting fact. Large deposits of methane hydrate are found in Arctic tundra. Okay. Now look at this. There is Arctic tundra. Yeah, and as Bhavna rightly said, it is methane trapped in ice. Methane trapped in ice. So when there is going to be global warming, methane being a gas, what is it going to happen? Is likely to escape. But even then, even now, what I'm thinking is I started with statement 2. Okay, I started with statement 2. Now I feel if statement 2 is high probability, then statement 1 also has to be a high probability statement. Now, this I'm purely playing in probability. I'm putting myself as an aspirant who has an average knowledge and I'm trying to logically move from one statement to another. If statement 2 is true, then statement 1 also has to be true. Do you broadly agree on this? Because if it is there in Arctic tundra, not under seafloor, but if it is under Arctic tundra, global warming means the permafrost will thaw, T-H-A-W. You understand this term? Thaw. There will be a thawing of permafrost. Thawing is same as, let's say, melting. So melting means what is happening? The methane is released into the atmosphere. Okay. So if 2 is correct, most probably 1 is also correct, which means this is also gone. Now here comes my real problem. UPSC, now what has UPSC done? It has very nicely segregated the students who are appearing it into people of those who are able to approach to this extent. But here once again, the third level also makes it very difficult because it forces you to be clear about whether statement 3 is correct or not. Yeah. So this once again was one question where I felt they are really able to. One is high probability, 2 is high probability, 3 is medium probability. Yeah, that's a good way to look at that, Vaibhav. You are looking by the global warming potential, the mean lifetime of methane in the atmosphere. So decade or two seems, so that way you're saying is medium probability, 2 is high probability. Yeah, so you're right. But the problem is that is what, no, you're getting stuck. What will you answer now? You know, A or D. Yeah. Now, maybe you will, in the examination hall, you will look up if that is where you feel God is, or you will close your eyes to visualize him, or whatever you want to do, you will do. But um, but those who are, you know, fairly confident of third statement, they will write third statement as correct. Those who are not, there is a risk. For example, if I say, you know, no, yeah, this I'm not sure, this is only medium probability, I'm not sure. Okay, so I may go for 1. And in the process, that may end up to be the wrong answer. So the correct answer to that is all the 3 statements are correct. Does anyone has any question in this? B is 70%, A is 30%. What is TF? TF will go with D. So therefore, is it? Okay. Okay, TF therefore will go with D. Yeah, so seafloor is seafloor. I mean, it is under the seafloor, but that does not in any way change. No, see, when they say oxidizes to carbon dioxide, it means after it gets emitted into the atmosphere. Okay, and statement 1 is correct because it refers to methane hydrate present in Arctic tundra, not under seafloor. Okay. Okay, good. Let's move on to the next question. Yeah, so this is, so one image I want you to remember. I took some time to get this image. Look at this beautiful image here. It's a burning ice. That is how you should remember methane. It is ice because it is frozen, Arctic tundra. It is burning because methane is inflammable. So if you're able to put this on fire, it's such an interesting you know, picture. It's very difficult to visualize. Ice burning, that's all. Methane hydrate is ice burning. In case in the examination hall you come across these terms, methane clarate, hydromethane. So you can, you know, identify hydromethane, methane ice, fire ice. All of it refers to the same thing. Methane gas trapped under ice at high pressure and low temperature. Yeah, this also reminds me, high pressure and low temperature. And it's not very difficult to imagine also, no? Because it is low temperature, the water is frozen. Because it is high pressure, the methane is compressed inside water. Are you able to broadly understand this? Okay, let's move on. 30 seconds, guys. And I expect someone to tell me this low, medium, and high probability, okay, against each statement. So what we will do is, yeah, I think we can make this more standardized statement. 1, 2, 3, low probability, medium probability, high probability, purely based on your knowledge base and your analytical skill, your way of analyzing the question. Looks like camper, yeah, it does. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to keep my timer on so that I can tell you guys, put you guys in the practice of reading. The first reading cannot be more than 30 seconds. Huh? I don't mean to push you, but always remember first reading cannot be more than 30 seconds. One can be eliminated. Okay, that's a very confident answer, Bhavna. The reason being 3 is low probability. All. Oh, okay. So many people have already come to the answer all. Okay. Extreme word. Okay, which is okay. So let's come one by one. Sorry if you have to type in again. Why can one be eliminated, Bhavna? Or did Prachi just answer for that saying it has the word mandatory? Is that the reason? Why can one be eliminated, guys? A little quick, please. Mandatory, yes. Perfect, you're right. Because if you go back to our own, see, one thing is to do so much of analysis, other thing is to remember what we discussed in the class. Ramsar Convention, okay. Not legally binding. Are you able to see this? Directly given. Not just me, any person who has taught Ramsar Convention would have given this to you. Okay. Yeah, cannot force any country, you're right. So that's a roundabout logic. A better logic is we have studied this. Okay, as simple as that. Good. So one we can eliminate, as Bhavna rightly says. So one is gone. So that helps me with strike off option A. Now I will not waste any time in even looking at statement 3. Am I right? I will not waste any time looking at statement 3. The only statement that I have to look at is statement 2. So now someone tell me statement 2, what is your feel, whether it is low, medium, high probability? High probability, okay. High probability, yeah. It seems very logical. When you say high probability, I would say, yeah, medium. I would say medium also. You're right, Bhavna. You can comfortably say medium. It seems kind of logical, but many times what seems logical, the option may be wrong also. But it kind of seems logical for us to think that management rule 2010, okay, and when were Ramsar Convention long back, so it's quite possible. Whenever we make any local laws, no, that needs to adhere to a earlier law or an international law. One beautiful example for this is our own law on biodiversity. If you look at it and if you go back and study what we had discussed, our own laws on biodiversity were influenced by the Convention on Biodiversity. So it somewhat seems logical. To that extent, our option is B. Okay, my God, we've just come to question 2020. So let's get started, guys. Your time starts now, 30 seconds. This is a tough one. I mean, I would say this is a tricky one. Thirty seconds over, guys. Anyone with an answer, not an answer, anyone trying to strike off options or low probability, high probability. So let me add here. Statement 1, option 1, LP, MP, HP. Yeah, so let's go one by one. Automobile exhaust. C can be striked off. Okay, option C can be striked off. You're saying, why do you say that? Option 1 is high probability. Yeah, statement 1 is high probability. Good, Arun. Tobacco smoke. What do you think? High, low, medium? Oh, okay. That is why you're saying, Abhishek. Got it. So tobacco smoke is once again high probability because if you remember, tobacco is nothing but nicotine. Okay, and nicotine has some 4,000 chemicals. And because we say tobacco is carcinogenic, and benzene is also carcinogenic. Therefore, it can be present in all material containing organic compound. Okay, but how would varnish? Varnish, is it organic? Okay, let's come to that Vaibhav. Let's come to that Vaibhav. Huh? So 1 is high probability, 2 is high probability, and as Abhishek rightly said, 3 can be struck off. Excellent, guys. Now comes wood burning. Can wood burning have benzene? Wood burning can have benzene. Okay. Low probability. Anyone else? Low probability, medium, high probability. Source of question, I have no idea, Bhavna, from where they have taken. I need to check. Wood smoke is high probability. Okay. Suppose I put wood as a high probability. Okay. Suppose I put it. So 1, 2, and 3, which means we are saying all 3, and I strike this off. Now what I've got option A and D. Now this makes it really very painful. After doing a lot of analysis, we are still left with 50-50. What do we do? Now, the other interesting point I want you to remember is the first 3 options, okay, they are talking about exhaust, smoke, burning, which means they're talking about combustion. The second 2 options, they're not talking about combustion. Please remember that. They're not talking about combustion. So do you think what is the probability of 4 and 5? Varnish is polish, have good smell, most probably contain benzene. Excellent, Vaibhav. I appreciate your logic and maybe your sense of smell also. Good. Anything that smells well, it most likely has benzene. I tend to agree with you. Low, okay. So statement 4 has low probability as per Prachi. How about statement 5? Another point I'll tell you, maybe I'll go back to the question. Here is where going back to the question comes. Which of the following are reasons factor for exposure to benzene? Now, exposure is not same as inhalation. Did anyone, while answering or looking at the option, did anyone assume inhalation while this question was being discussed? Okay, if no one has assumed it, then it's fine. But people may generally tend, because benzene, you can smell benzene. Oh, you assumed inhalation. Exactly. That's the, I would say, the catch here, I would say. 1 second. Benzene is cyclic. Okay, ethane is acyclic and benzene is cyclic. Okay. So 5 seems to be low probability. How about 4, guys? I want you to focus all your energies, because if 4 we are able to prove that high probability, then it is option D. If 4 we are thinking that 4 is low probability, then it is option A. So as a class or individually, now that I have told that exposure is not inhalation, it could be touching also. Now think about it. Using varnish wooden furniture, what will happen to varnish over a period of time? Yeah. Any idea? Any leap of faith here? Varnish has a lot of. Okay, this reminds me, Nigar. I think we have touched upon benzene. No? I myself forget what I taught once. We have discussed benzene. Oh, sorry, not this. Yes, here you go. Hydrocarbons, benzene. So this was a slide on air pollution, automobiles and refineries, cancer causing properties. But yes, I have not given the source here. Okay, hydrocarbon, it is very clearly given. That's why many of you are rightly able to say a vehicle exhaust. Okay, have I mentioned it anywhere else? It also comes in the national ambient air quality systems, which means the government is quite serious about benzene pollution, at least at some point in time. Okay, so that's the last match we have found. But that does not really help us to solve this, but it's good for us to refresh that we've touched upon benzene. Yeah, so Abhishek, that's what I'm saying. You know, pungent fumes, they're not talking about fumes at all. They're just saying exposure. Okay, that is how I started this question by saying how many of you have correlated exposure to inhalation. Exposure could also mean touching. Okay, this is a tough one, guys, to be very honest, but I felt that because it is using okay, because it is saying using and there they are saying exposure, benzene exposure can happen even if you are using a varnished wooden furniture for a long time, because varnish is the top layer, no, it will move on with time. What if you have a kid, which scratches the wooden furniture? All kids have done all the time. Yeah. So in this case, painful as it may sound, the correct answer is all of the above. Correct answer is all of the above. So the only point that I learned from this question, and I want you to remember, is the first three is about combustion, the next three is not combustion, but here they are anyway not asking about combustion, they are asking about exposure. So just get the meaning of the words very, very clearly, guys, before you even start attempting the question. Okay, so let's move on further. Next statement. Another question to kind of, what should I say, irritate you or make you feel, how could you ask a question like this? How am I supposed to know whether a desert park or any other national park is spread over 2 districts or 3 districts? Yeah, and especially if it's a state that I'm not even related to, how am I supposed to know it? You are not supposed to know it, therefore you are supposed to look at the other statements. Same funda, guys, low probability, medium probability, high probability. Whichever statement is not clear, you leave it as not sure. Okay. Two is correct. Okay. There are no human habitations. Okay. I also don't know, guys, but the interesting thing is absolute statement. Huh? National parks are large, so one is high probability. But by that definition, Prachi, it could be spread in 3 districts also, no? So how are you saying one is correct, Sagarika? If you can, have you read it somewhere specifically? Oh, you read it somewhere. Okay, great. That helps. That really helps. Jaisalmer and Barmer. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll come to, maybe we touched the Great Indian Bustard in our one of the current affairs also, I think. Great Indian Bustard. So Great Indian Bustard is critically endangered. Okay. Ah, yes, here it is. No Great Indian Bustard in Kutch. Okay, that's fine. Next. Population confined mostly to Rajasthan and Gujarat. So we have a very direct part which says it is there in Gujarat. 15% is gone. Okay. We talked about this collision in power and the so many solar power projects coming in Barmer district. In fact, it was Barmer. So it would really help if you can also read and revise what we have. Exactly, Desert National Park in Rajasthan and Great Indian Bustard also comes in Rajasthan. So that gives you the confidence. Exactly, Vaibhav. I was also thinking along the same line. That gives you the confidence to call this as high probability. Yeah, so I would say 3 as high probability. So I'll directly strike off this. Okay. Now there are no human habitations inside the park. Imagine 2 districts, Jaisalmer and Barmer, if that is what the case is, no human habitation inside the park. This can cause confusion even in a good aspirant, because the general tendency is national park means no human habitations. Do you agree? That's what we would have studied. Or greater restriction on human habitation. Wildlife sanctuary, still you have more restrictions. But when I juxtapose that information with the fact that it is spread over 2 districts, and that too, the districts where you are saying that there are solar power projects and the Great Indian Bustards are dying and all, that seems a little, to me it seems like a low probability event. Are you able to understand why I'm classing this as a low probability? Because no human habitations in conjunction with this 2 districts spread over 2 districts. Yeah, it somewhat seems a little difficult. So what I do is I strike off 2. Oh, then that actually gives me 1 and 3. So yeah, so Sagarika is right. So it is spread over 2 districts and it's one of the natural habitats of Great Indian Bustards. Okay. So the only confusion, I once again repeat, what we studied in national park. Okay, what did we study in national park, by the way? So let's quickly. Okay, so this way it will take a very long time. 1 second now. Yeah. Yeah. So if you look at it, highly restricted, random access is not allowed. Random access is not allowed. It, yeah, here we got this human activity not allowed. I think this is what would have caused confusion when Bishanjit said that two statements seems to be correct. Yeah, but the counter logic in this case is it is impossible if the park is spread in 2 districts. Yeah, especially the districts of Jaisalmer and Barmer. Yeah, you're right, Bishanjit. That's what I'm saying. I had exactly the same doubt. Maybe we should ask the question setter. Yeah, this does create confusion, guys. I completely agree with what you are stating, Bishanjit. But if you look at it that way, there are a lot of national parks. By definition, yes, no habitations allowed. But if you look at some of the large national parks, there are populations that are actually present. So perhaps this is the key learning for us here is what is there in theory. In practice, apparently, it is not so much applicable. Maybe this is a key takeaway for. Yeah, I agree, Navina. But I'm also trying to look at it from an aspirant point of view because after having spent so much time remembering the facts that hey, there are no human habitations in a national park, the restrictions are there, this that. It becomes a little. Sanjay Gandhi National Park has a lot of habitations, so Bhavna comes
Yes,
to
sir.
this way. So yeah.
Yes, I had the same confusion while solving this question.
Okay.
And exactly, I'm going to say what Bhavna says because I went to Sanjay Gandhi National Park and they have human habitations there.
Yeah.
So I had that empirical knowledge that, okay, I have seen the human habitation in national park, but I have read that human settlement is not allowed in national park. So I had the same
Got
doubt in my mind while solving this
got it,
question.
Vaibhav. Is this Vaibhav?
Yes, sir.
Who just spoke? Yeah, Weber. Okay. Got it, Weber. Yeah. So I'll tell you another part. In Chennai, we have a park. I didn't know it's a national park. It's called as a Ghindi National Park. So Ghindi National Park is pretty much heart of Chennai, which is where IIT is, Anna University, if you know, one of the great colleges of South India. So all that is in Ghindi only. But there is a small area which is called as a Ghindi National Park, which is kind of shrunk. Okay. So, Bishanjit, I think we should take this with a pinch of salt, as in the theory says something, but in practice, apparently it is not possible. Because look at the statement also. It does not say no human habitation is allowed in national park. It says no human habitation is inside this park. Means I'm sure you have also not gone, I have also not gone, we don't know. But we know the whole history about the Great Indian Bustard getting hit in the transmission lines, which means people are not just habitation, they're even making electrical projects and exporting power to different parts of India. Okay, and Sanjay Gandhi National Park is a typical example because I have seen it from a distance at a place called Borivali. So the national park is so close to Mumbai and the populated region that two-way exchange happens. You know what I mean by two-way exchange? People go to the national park, and sometimes the leopard comes to the habitable areas. Okay, so it was very interesting to see leopards getting spotted in some of the Mumbai apartments. Okay. Okay, guys, let's move on. I think we're going a little slow. Siachen Glacier. Why don't we look at that, Vaibhav? Why don't we look at that? Yeah, no new human settlement. Yeah, why don't we look at that? Siachen Glacier is situated to low probability, high probability. Quickly, guys. A, is it a low probability or a high probability according to you? Remember the map? Remember the map? Low probability. One second, Bishanjit. Kabul Lamjo National Park does not have any human habitation, so National Park Central does not fit the state. We should know some exceptions. Unfortunately, seems to be the case, Vishnuji. Unfortunately, seems to be the case. Excellent, Arun. It is to the west of Aksai Chin. You're absolutely right. Superb, guys. Very nice. So if you look at the map of Jammu Kashmir, so the map of Jammu Kashmir, we discussed, there is a nice map I have shared with you when we studied IR. Okay. You remember the story how Siachen became an issue point, NJ9842, then the Karachi agreement saying that, this will go to the north and India interpreting it in a different way, Pakistan interpreting it in a different way. That is how we should see. That itself will give you an indication. Siachen glacier is very much to the west of Leh, exactly west of Leh and Aksai Chin. So the first thing that you could do, even with a preliminary understanding of the map, is these two you will strike off, guys. The only problem that you have is north of Gilgit, north of Nubra Valley. But once again, go to the same map. I don't know if you have seen that map. 1 second. I'll tell you even which map I showed while we discussed IR. I think it was a map something like this. Do you remember this map? In IR when we discussed India-Pakistan, are you able to see Siachen Glacier here? Aksai Chin is here, Leh is here. This is Gilgit-Baltistan. So Siachen Glacier is to the east of Gilgit-Baltistan, north of Gilgit. So this is gone. It's quite possible that you have not heard of Nubra Valley at all. But see, very cleverly, they have made that as the right option, which means this is an excellent example of a question where you can arrive by eliminating option one by one. Okay. Is it, I hope it's clear, it's Nubra Valley. Direct factual questions, anyone would like to guess? 30 seconds, your time starts now. See, okay. Why do you say that, Abhishek? Is it directly you have read it somewhere or you have arrived it, deduction, deduced it? Yes, guys, 30 seconds over. I think anyone else has a different answer. You read it somewhere, yeah. So critical tiger habitat, Bhavna, is, you remember our biosphere reserves where we had 3 zones, the core, the buffer and the transition. Tiger reserves are also like that. They also have these similar 3 categories. So in that, the middle, the beach wala, the one that is at the core, that is called as a critical tiger habitat. Okay. So the answer, Abhishek, you're right, seems to be Nagarjuna Sagar Srisalam. If you don't know, it would have been impossible to attempt. Because when you think of tiger reserve and critical tiger habitat, I would always think, Jim Corbett is Jim Corbett. Yeah, maybe that has a good chance. At the most, I would have come to Sundarbans and thought, yeah, Royal Bengal tiger, Sundarbans. There is no way I would have even gone to Nagarjuna Sagar. So in these kind of questions, no, it's like a digital 0 or 1. If you know, you answer it. Otherwise, don't even attempt it. Sundarban, exactly. Sundarban is a tempting option. You're right. And MP has the highest number of tigers, exactly. So at least just be cautious of which type of questions. If you don't know, don't even try to zero in, because there is nothing to zero in, no. Whereas in the previous one, this we were able to zero in purely based on map. All these we were able to zero in because there is a statement and there is an option based on statement. So by looking at statement is correct, incorrect, we are able to strike off options, but not in this case. You know it, you answer it. So Abhishek has read it somewhere, and that somewhere is the right information, which is Nagarjuna Sagar. I got this wrong. Let me admit that I got this wrong because of the same logic, critical tiger habitat, which means if you have not read the news, you cannot answer this. Okay, just be cautious of it so that at least you avoid negative score. 30 seconds, guys. Your time starts now. Are we supposed to study the core area? So Bhavna, so this would have come in the news, Bhavna, for the 2021 whatever the current affairs was. No, it should have come in the news. I'm pretty sure. Otherwise, there is no end to it. Comparing the critical tiger habitat for all the 51 tiger reserves. I mean, then we will be doing only this for the next 2-3 weeks. Okay. Low probability, high probability, or someone says no probability required, sir, we can directly answer this. That is also possible. C is incorrect. Correct. C is incorrect. You are right. Yeah. Too bold. Very good. So nice, no? It's not a genetically modified crop. Cannot. So it's an absolute statement. Under any circumstances, most probably. So I'll call this as a low probability statement. Such a plant is invasive and harmful to the ecosystem. We can just think about it. But imagine the whole schedule is for what? Is for protection. What does the name suggest? Wildlife protection. Okay. So if I were an aspirant with, let's say, limited knowledge, I would still say there's a low probability. Or why would you have a Wildlife Protection Act to protect plants which are invasive? Are you able to understand? The key word is here, Wildlife Protection Act. Okay. The other one is, you're right. But if we won't have a schedule to protect an invasive species, Arun, think about it that way. Why would you have a schedule dedicated? There are 6 schedules. Why would you have a schedule dedicated to protect invasive and harmful plants? Think of it that way. The other option is, as Prachi said, let's look at what we have discussed. I have also forgotten actually. Wildlife protection. Okay, sorry, I think I'm fast. Is this possible? Discuss Wildlife Protection Act. Did we not discuss Wildlife Protection Act? We've discussed it. Tiger reserves. No, it comes after this. Coral reefs might see too. Oh yeah, it is your yeah, here it should compensate your forestation, its biodiversity, traditional knowledge, convention. Did we not study Wildlife Protection Act? Impossible that I have not taught wildlife protection. We looked at Schedule 1. We did, right? Okay. Am I not able to get it? 1 second. Ah, yes, here. Oh, this is okay. Ah, yes, here. I don't know. Oh, okay, okay. Protection is under bracket, so it takes it exactly this one. Okay, so this is your Schedule 5, and there are certain prohibited from cultivation and planting. I think we have also used a not a very appropriate term. We have used an absolute thing, prohibited from cultivation and planting, which are endemic plants. Now, what does the option say here? A license is required to cultivate a plant. Yeah, so I think I had explained in the class, maybe I remember it, even though it is called prohibited, but in reality, you will require a license. Now I remember, I think I had mentioned this specifically in the class. Okay, so good. The answer is option A, guys. Zero tillage. First, understand what is zero tillage. We all understand what is zero tillage means. It's same as no ploughing or very limited ploughing. That is zero tillage. Without burning of residue, okay, without the need for nursery, carbon sequestration in the soil is possible. "30 seconds over, I guess. Which statement, what probability can someone tell me, guide me? Oh, you're directly saying the answer. Okay, very good. Statement 1 and 3, high probability. I agree with you, Prachi, on this, because carbon sequestration in the soil is possible. So what do we mean by carbon sequestration here? Carbon sequestration means the carbon is going into the soil, which means the soil is holding carbon. Is this possible? It is perfectly possible, because the previous crop, the residue of the previous crop goes into the soil, and that becomes carbon sequestration. What is carbon sequestration? You have natural and man-made carbon sequestration. This is an example of a natural carbon sequestration. So 3 is a high probability statement. Sowing of wheat is possible without burning the residue of previous crop. Absolutely. This is indeed zero tillage, right? So 1 and 3 is high probability. So, oh good. So if I say 1 and 3 is high probability, then automatically I'm left with only automatically I'm left with only one option. Any questions on this, guys? Bhavna, is it clear to you? You have any questions? Or anyone else for that matter? Abhishek, Shawnli, Sheta. Two option not understood. It's okay, because you got the answer anyways. See, for a study purpose, you agree. We can always discuss that. But what really the purpose of this class is to help us to arrive at an approach which will maximize your score based on your knowledge base. Okay. Without the need for, now coming to statement 2, without the need for nursery of rice saplings, direct planting of paddy seeds in wet soil is possible. So nursery of rice saplings, where do they do this nursery of rice sapling? Nursery of rice sapling. Direct planting of paddy seeds. See, if you look at zero tillage agriculture, no? If you look at zero tillage agriculture, no, this is a thing that is most suitable for, let's say, small and marginal farmers. Okay, they will not have the money, let's say, to remove the residue of the previous crop, and nor will they really be able to have a nursery of rice sapling, guys. Direct, they would most probably be doing planting of paddy seeds in the wet soil. Yeah, so that is the logic that I would apply to make statement 2 also correct. So the option is option D. But having said that, suppose we don't know what is statement 2, but we should be happy enough to understand that because we are able to get statement 1 and 3 correct, automatically our answer has become, we have been able to zero in on the answer. Exactly, they tick. Means you understand, nursery means they will, what do you put? They will put in a cover, not exactly a plastic cover. You can take the rice saplings. They don't exactly put it in the field, they put it elsewhere and they transfer it and then they plow it. Why? Because by that time, those saplings have developed some roots and they are just beginning to grow. Okay. National policy on biofuels. I think this we have discussed somewhere in the class, but let's look at the question. India's national policy on biofuels. Which of the following can be used as raw materials? Have we reached 2020 question already? Or are we still in 2019? I hope we have reached 2020. 2 is high probability. Very good, Abhishek. That's the right approach. So let me go right away with you. Damaged wheat grains. Exactly. Super. So by the same logic, Abhishek, look at what Prachi is saying. If 2 is high probability, 5 is also high probability, right? Do you agree? 2 and 5. So let's look at all the options that has both 2 and 5. This has 2 and 5. This has 2 and 5. This has 2. Unfortunately, we are able to strike off only one. Doesn't matter. Rotten potato, damaged wheat grain, something which is not fit for human consumption, you give it to them. Is there any option where you feel this cannot be a raw material? Yeah? People will not allow this to be a raw material, or government will not allow this to be a raw material for biofuels? Yeah. Do you agree with what Prachi is saying? 3 is something which the government under normal circumstances, what is there, yeah, as a food grain or the oil seeds, that they will not do as biofuel. Sometimes this logic is extremely helpful. Suppose you didn't do even this. Suppose I looked at only groundnut seeds. Okay. What I'll do, I'll strike off options which have 3. So I strike off this, I strike off this, and I strike off this. And therefore, I got the answer. Yeah. So that's why I say, please try both the extremes. With statement, you said high probability, but sometimes it helps if you are able to eliminate this, though pakka it will not come. That pakka will not come as your groundnut seeds because that is more of an edible nature. Okay. Now, here, if we look at our own class lectures, national policy biofuels. Yeah, here you go. So that is one option. Other option is if you just have revised this, no, very interestingly, I found that almost everything is there. Damaged food grains like wheat, broken rice, rotten potatoes, sugar cane, sugar material, sweet wheat, cassava, everything gets included. Okay. So both ways, if we have studied the notes and revised notes so that we are able to recall it, well and good. Otherwise, you follow the policy of trying to zero in through a logical means. Okay. So the answer is A. Social cost of carbon. A, okay, Arun directly says A. Shawnli says A. Which option do you think cannot be? Is that also a possibility? You say, Array, this option though it will not be. C cannot be. Very good. Individual person, okay. So C and D cannot be. So good, we are zeroing in on the answer, no? So the correct answer is A, guys. I think let me not overanalyze this. If you guys have understood the crux of the question, then let's go with it. The answer is A. I thought B it will not be happen. The reason is it talks of social cost of carbon. Okay, and here there is nothing about cost. It talks about requirement of fossil fuels. Okay, here at least efforts put by climate refugees. So it's a cost. Carbon footprint, yeah, this also seems a little difficult. To me, I felt that the most confusing option, if someone has no clue, was actually A and C. Because they talk of climate refugees, so you will link it to the society to live in a new place. Let's see that, Bishanjit Singh. Have we learnt it? Let me look at it. Social cost. This is the question. Oh yes, superb. You're right. Social cost of carbon emission. So we have studied it under carbon tax. Yeah, I don't blame you at all because I taught it. I myself, exactly forgot where I had taught. I also vaguely remember we had studied the social cost of carbon in carbon tax. So it makes it important for all the more important for us to revise again and again. Okay, good. Thanks, Bishanjit Singh. Otherwise, I would have missed that part. Next question. Before you get into the question, this is one question where you can apply the knowledge. Why? Because there are 4 statements and then there are options based on statements. Are you able to understand what I'm trying to say? This is a question where you can apply the logic. But questions like this, it is very difficult to apply logic. Questions like this, you can apply logic. Questions like this, very difficult to apply logic. Either you know it, you answer it. If you don't know, it is difficult to analyze. You may analyze and you may get it wrong also. But this is a question there where we should analyze. Sorry, we should analyze. One, 2, and 4 are high probability. Okay, crop diversification, eco-friendly. Okay, legume intensification, high probability. Vertical farming also high probability. Oh, excellent. I'm so happy that vertical farming you're saying is high probability. Can someone tell me why is vertical farming you're calling it as a eco-friendly agriculture? One of the three, Arun, Vaibhav, Shamli, any one of you? I would say, what is this here? Vertical farming, it looks so unnatural. How can it be eco-friendly? 1 and 2, I agree. Okay, crop diversification, legume intensification. In urban space. So what, Prachi? Less soil, less land. Excellent. Perfect. If you have seen the eco-friendly, if you have seen a picture of vertical farming, you will be able to understand, because it is the farming that not just optimizes on the space, exactly Abhishek, but also optimizes on the water. Okay. So which means 1, 2, and 4. Where are 1, 2, and 4? The only option which has 1, 2, and 4 is this. Therefore, by this logic, 3 also turns out to be right. So tensiometer is an instrument used to identify soil water ratio. Means how much water is already present in the soil. What will you do? This will help you to do very selective and measured. Measured what? What is the next word coming? Measured irrigation. Because what you're actually doing is you're finding out how much the soil is already saturated with water. So if you just type tensiometer in Google, no, you'll find that a rod kind of a thing is inserted. And then it gives you the pressure of water inside soil. Okay, so more the water pressure, less irrigation it is required, because there is already so much water. Okay, so the answer is all of the above. Good, guys. Good luck with this question. Low, medium, high probability, or outrightly for sure this is correct, or for sure this is wrong. Anything of that. So now that we know the abbreviations, it's good. LP, MP, HP. Okay. One is high probability, one is true. How do you know that? Means, have you read it or interacted with an elephant group? How do you know that? One is correct. So Prachi is confident one is correct. Leader of elephant group is female. Read it somewhere. Okay, Arun. Anyone else? Leader of an elephant group is female. You've seen it in National Geographic channel. Excellent, Prachi. Good. And let me come to what Abhishek had said. Abhishek says statement 4 is low probability. What makes you think, Abhishek? Don't you know that in Kerala, outside every temple, you see elephants? I think this part we had particularly discussed. Yeah. So you are right. All of you are right in this. Lots of elephant corridors. Excellent, Abhishanjit. So not to get influenced by what is shown in the television. You know, every time elephant means we think of Kerala. And I think while discussing Project Elephant, I have specifically mentioned this. So don't get influenced by a lot of elephant images coming from Kerala. The actual number of elephants, the highest number of elephants is in Karnataka. So option 4 is for sure wrong. Can I remove something? I can remove this. Now, this is a very interesting kind of an option. See, sometimes what will happen, no, had it been 1 and 2 option A, and suppose it had been 1 only or 2 only, okay, then that is one kind of a approach. Now, all that you have to know is between 1, 2, and 3, which of the statement is for sure correct. If you know that, then you got the option. Are you able to understand this? Suppose if you say 1 is for sure correct, or if you say 2 is for sure correct, or if you say 3 is for sure correct, it makes your job very easy. So in this, as many of you have rightly said, the leader of the elephant group is a female. So which is, therefore, we need not worry too much about 2. The maximum gestation period. So in this case, it's the time for the calf to be born. Okay. Yeah, that is also another logic, Prachi. You know, when I looked at the statement, I felt that somewhere the question setter has also got it grammatically wrong. Because if you look at statement 3, no, it doesn't make grammatical sense. An elephant can normally go on calving till the age of 40 only. If I were an English teacher, I would have said this statement does not make grammatical or a logical sense. How can you have normally on one side and only on the other? Yeah, but we will maybe excuse the question setter. but that's okay. Yeah. So even that ways it is wrong. "40 years and 1 day," is it? Calving, okay. Calving till the age of 40 years and 1 day. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Which of the following protected areas are located in Kaveri Basin? So imagine the South Indian map. Mentally make a picture of where Kaveri is starting from the Western Ghats. And many of you rightly said Talakaveri, Coorg region. From Coorg come in the southeast direction, because from Coorg you have to come in the southeast direction, so that there is a Tanjore Delta. Are you able to understand? So the Kaveri broad flow will be from northwest to southeast. 2 is AP, therefore strike off. Excellent. Both of you have said the same thing. Papikonda. Yeah, we discussed 2 last time. So 2 you strike off. Oh, that's really helpful, no? Now, which is the only option that you need to focus? Only point that you need to focus only on point 1. Because in both the options, they are saying 3 and 4 is there. So don't even spend time looking at 3 and 4, what it is. Just look at 1. Now let's look at, according to you, which state does Nagarhole sound like among the 4 South Indian languages? Which language does it look like? Is it Tamil? Is it Malayalam? Is it Kannadiga? Or is it Telugu? Yeah, it is Karnataka. Exactly, it is Karnataka. Now it is Karnataka. Yeah. So which means if it has to be, okay. So if it has to be Nagarhole, and if it is a national park, in which part of Karnataka do you have a greater probability of finding a national park? The southern or the northern, or the middle or the northern? Which part of Karnataka? Southern. Excellent, Sagarika. Yeah. Now, southern means, is there a greater probability of it coming along the Kaveri river basin? So this is where knowledge of map will help. Yeah. So now you guys are clear. Yeah. So that's how you make a mental picture of map. It will really help you. So the answer is, this guy is also there, which means the option is option C. Yeah. So this is one question. If you know it. Otherwise, you don't know. So though this is zoology, but our science group students can say. So Prachi has already said it, birds. Okay, since Prachi has said it, no opposition, we'll accept that it is bird and move on. Yeah, UPSC. Oh, Bishanjit also says bird. And Arun has also said birds. Great. And UPSC also says birds. Perfect, guys. Oh, it was an Hindu newspaper. Okay. But, okay, for 2021 Bishanjit. Okay. Possible. Hey, Barasingha we have discussed this year also, by the way. Indian swamp deer Barasingha. Yeah, genetic profiling. Kanha, okay. What makes you say that, Prachi and Arun? Why not Manas National Park? MP, okay. Very interesting, Bishanjit. I really am impressed with your logic. Grassland. Kanha. Exclusively graminivorous. What is graminivorous? Yeah, grass eating. Excellent. Now let me also just refresh my own memory and some of the others in the class. Barasingha. Genetic profiling. Okay. So, but this profiling has happened in Dudhwa National Park. Okay, but doesn't matter. We have very clearly, interestingly, we have also mentioned they are found in significant numbers in Kanha National Park. You haven't read about any deers. Good, guys. I think that is all it is. We are all on. I'm so happy to see the way we are responding here. Make sure that you replicate a similar performance in the mock test in any 1 or 2 good institute, and then in the actual UPSC examination, guys. Kanha is famous for Barasingha. There is another Kanha when we talk about tiger itself. Was it? Yes, excellent. See, for tigers also we looked at Kanha. There's one more Kanha. For the highest number. Okay. Okay, I think this is the Kanha. Great. The answer is Kanha. Musk deer. I have no clue here. Can someone tell me if this was a current affairs by any chance, those who attempted 2021? Which of the following are the most likely places to find musk deer in its natural habitat? Yeah, Kasturi Brig, you're right. It's the same one because of which Ramayana started, no? Or the whole thing, the war happened. The musk deer which kind of attracted Sita's attention. Or was it black bug, or both are the same? Oh, okay. It was Sita's the golden deer, is it? Okay. Musk deer is one in which you have that fragrant, supposed to be having that fragrant present in it. No? Excellent thought, Abhishek. Usually found in the Himalayan region. So Gangotri looks likely. Very good. One is so Ascot. Where is Ascot, guys? Any idea? UK. Oh, okay. UK is Uttarakhand. Sorry. Okay. So this is awesome, guys. Both of them are Uttarakhand. Okay, and seems to be a high probability thing. Manas is Assam, and Kishanpur. Any idea, guys? Kishanpur, which state? Kishanpur Wildlife Sanctuary. UP. Right. Now, Ascot, I also want you to remember because this is exactly where India and Nepal are having a border dispute. It's very close to the Mahakali River. Yeah, in India-Nepal relationship we discussed, no? So that way you can relate it. This is in that Pithoragarh district of Uttarakhand. Yeah. So if you remember that, the place where Nepal and India border towards the Uttarakhand region, so that is what it is. So the option here is 1 and 2 only. Oh. Next statement. Next question. This with some logic we can get, I think. Oh, excellent, guys. So all studied in this. Super. There is a lot of unanimity for the first time in the class. 3 we discussed in ash dike, and sulfur dioxide and oxides of nitrogen also we have discussed in one way or the other. What I don't particularly remembering discussing, though it was mentioned in the slide, is to stressing on the fact that coal also has certain heavy metals. I may have verbalized it, but yeah, it's likely to have heavy metals. So good, guys. Answer is D. Biochar is a topic I think we have not discussed. So what I've done is I've included just one slide on biochar after this question. So you can even, I'm sure you must have heard it somewhere, biochar. Yeah, char is for charcoal, bio is for its biological origins. One is high probability, 1 second, one very good, okay. So Prachi says one is high probability. It's a carbon source. When biochar is part of growing medium, it promotes the growth of nitrogen fixing microorganisms. Okay. Oh, all 3 high probability. Yeah. All 3 are high probability. Do all of you agree? Yeah. So I don't know, in my scheme of things, the first thing that struck me was actually this one here. Enables growth medium to retain water, because biochar at the end of the day is an organic content. Anything that is organic, imagine humus. Humus means thick, sticky kind of a thing. So 3 for sure was right for me. So I was able to strike up this. Then the only thing that I have to look at it is whether 2 is right or not. For this, we should have studied, which unfortunately we did not. So the answer is all the 3. All the 3. So I've added one slide on what biochar is, how it is produced. It's a soil conditioning agent, so on and so forth. So please do read this. Oh man, just now we've come to 2021. Not bad. We still have more than, we'll finish 2021 in today's class here. I can't afford to take another class on questions. Take your time and tell me what you feel. What is most probably, or same, LP, MP and HP. We have not studied this, by the way. We have not studied copper smelting. But suppose we have not studied this. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We have not studied this, Bhavna, because this they have just asked. I don't know if there was. I'm just wondering, because this Sterlite, if you know the issue in Tamil Nadu, Sterlite power plant, and people were fired upon. That was at least 2 years old. So the Sterlite had a copper smelting facility. Yeah, Vedanta Group in a place called Thoothukudi. We call it as Thoothukudi. In English, it's called as Tuticorin. So let's analyze the statements one by one. So when you say copper smelting, how does smelting happens? Suppose you have copper. This copper is actually put in a furnace. Okay. And it melts it. So there is enormous amount of heat that is given to the copper. That is why it smelts. That's what smelting is. Now what happens? There is something called as a slag that gets formed. Then there is one layer of the copper metal that comes out of the ore. Okay, which means what do you mean in this? You mean to say that high amount of energy is being produced. Now this energy could either come from coal, okay, or it could be an electric arc furnace also. There's something called as an electric arc furnace. Now leave aside everything, okay. Let's go statement by statement. They may release lethal quantities. Lethal means someone can die of carbon monoxide into the environment. Okay, carbon monoxide into the environment, which means technically this is to say that if there is a copper smelting plant, there should not be people around. It somewhat seems a little difficult. And if you have ever studied copper smelting, you will always come across the word that the smelting happens in a rich oxygen environment. Either ways, whichever you study. So this statement is most probably incorrect. One is most probably incorrect. So I'll reject one. Oh, okay. So it's helping me to arrive at the answer. Okay. So I think this was one good way in which, luckily, I just got lucky in this case. That one statement, because I've read somewhere that the smelting happens in an oxygen-rich environment. That's number one. But suppose you did not know this. You start from statement 3. Okay, so 3, as many of you rightly said, sulfur dioxide does get produced. There is copper. And if coal is used, the coal can also have sulfur. Sometimes India imports what is called as a coking coal. Sorry, non-coking coal is for thermal power plants, coking coal. Coking coal is used in a steel industry. Okay, but as a form of energy, it can also be used for copper smelting. Though it is less, but it can be used. So sulfur, and that too they are saying may. So he's not very absolute about this. May release sulfur dioxide. Yeah, so which is correct. Copper slag can cause leaching of some heavy metals into the environment. This is also correct, because copper, when it occurs as a ore, along with copper, some of the other elements are also present, like sometimes copper and zinc, they come together. So it is very rarely found separately. Okay, it is always found in conjunction with other metals. So either you got lucky, just as I did, by looking at the word lethal, and then trying to imagine its consequence, yeah, or remembering the fact that smelting happens in an oxygen-rich environment. Okay, either ways, whatever works for you, you go for it, and we get option B. Furnace oil. Furnace oil. So it's specifically about furnace oil. Okay, one is correct. It's part of oil. It is a product of oil refineries. Yeah. So one seems like a high probability, guys. Do you agree to it? Furnace oil. It says, it is the name itself. And I'll also say maybe we have touched this in our class also. I'll discuss that also. So one seems like a high probability. It can cause sulfur emission into the environment. So it is a byproduct of petroleum refining. So for that, let me see if we have studied something about furnace oil. Directly related to Delhi pollution. SC asked all states and union territories to move forward with a ban on pet coke and furnace oil. That the very last statement, interestingly, we have used as furnace oil is a dark, viscous residual fuel that is used for power generation. Yeah. So one way is to arrive logically, another way is to remember what we have studied in the class. So answer D, which is what many of you are saying. All three are high probability. Blue carbon. So either you know it or you don't know this, but it is also somewhat guessable, is what I thought. Good. So if you guys are saying A, then we'll go with it. It is indeed A. Take some time to look at this question. Arrange it as low, medium, high probability. Four, 1 second. Not able to see what Arun is typing. 4 is high probability. 4 high probability. It's on tree trunk also. 1 and 4 high probability. Most likely. Okay. 2 and 3 is high probability. 3 is high probability. So Shweta and Shanli say 3 is high probability. Have you looked at a picture of mushroom? For sure, it can grow on a I think dead plant also. It can grow. Mosses and lichens for sure, because if you remember when we discussed ecological succession, do you recollect ecological succession? That picture in which on the bare rock surface mosses and lichen could come. If you're not clear, this is the right time to also refresh so that you go back, hopefully go back and do the same thing. Ecological succession, yeah. So in this, if you look at this image, do you recollect this? Bare rock, lichen on the bare rock. So clearly it seems that it can grow in soil, it can grow in tree, it can also grow in, it can grow in rocks, it can grow on trees, it does not require. So mosses and lichen for me also seems to be a high probability. Now, the only question is mushroom are most likely to be found surviving on surface without soil. So the question here is most likely, which means what he is saying is among the 4, which of the ones are most likely? Means if you see a moss or a lichen 10 times, you will find them most probably, majority of the times you are finding them that they are not in the soil. Same with fern. You know what? By looking at all your answers, to me also I'm tempted to say all the 4, all of the above. But the problem is all of the above is not in the option itself. Okay, so let's start with that point, Vishenjit Singh, that all of the above is not an option. Okay, so now between these four, if we have to assign weights, among these four, which one do you think by nature or by majority of the times they can be found on a surface without soil? Yeah, Abhishek, you are right, Abhishek. I tend to go with Sheta and Shawnli when they first said 2 and 3. I tend to go with 2 and 3. Okay. Oh, if I say 2 and 3, then it is only 2 and 3. Fern is unlikely because fern, if you means I am not an expert in botany, but whenever I look at fern, it's always a fern plant. Yeah, it's a fern plant with the soil. So it's a tough. That's why I said it's a tricky question here. If there was an option 1, 2, 3, 4, or if there was an option 2, 3, 4, no, I would have gone for 2, 3, 4. But 2, 3, 4 they have not given. So I have to work around and see which is the most closest option. Yeah, same here. I have also seen mushrooms only on tree trunk now, interestingly. So I was not really able to judge or guess on this one. Yeah, it's a little tricky or a messed up question, or maybe the question setter forgot to put the right option or something. I also felt a little something amiss about this whole question. It's difficult to quantify, but when I looked at it, I said, "Nee, yeah, something is missing in this question." Yeah, all said and done, but then UPSC is UPSC, so we kind of go in front of them. Yes. Large scale mushroom cultivation, very true. Done without soil. You've seen fern growing between the rock at my home. So what should we do, Bishanjit Singh? Should we write a representation to UPSC? Would that help in any way? I also agree. But if there was an option 2, 3, 4, or all of the above, I'd have been tempted to put that. But they've not given us that option. Yeah. So maybe one of you, when you become civil servants and you become, somewhat in charge of the civil service examination of question paper, you can be a little more empathetic towards your juniors who are fellow aspirants. Yeah. Till that time, this will go on. I was also not very happy with the question itself because it is subject to so many interpretations. But then, chalo, it happens. Life has its share of frustrations. So let's move on to the next question and see what best we can do. Primary producers. So a conceptual question. Okay, so this is a conceptual question. Food chain in oceans. So basically they are saying which of them can come under phytoplankton? One way or the other. 3 is a high probability. Excellent. So okay, so Prachi and Vaibhav and maybe Abhishek also. So the answer seems to be 2 and 3. But how about 1 and 4? 2 is high probability. Very good. Cyanobacteria, right, Vaibhav? Diatoms, I think Abhishek had already mentioned. So that's also high probability. So if I look at 2 and 3, then I can directly zero in on the question. But before that, we have to be sure about 1 and 4. Any idea? 1 or 4? I think we don't really have to worry because we are clear of 2 and 3, and there is only one option which says 2 and 3. Exactly. So anything on POD, arthropod or this pod, that pod, they are crustaceans, the one which have this shell kind of a thing. And I believe examples are, there's so many examples, Prachi. Is it crab-like or would jellyfish come under this? I don't know. I thought jellyfish also comes under this. So the answer is 2 and 3, guys. We'll stick to this answer and move on. Oh, the answer is mentioned here. Sorry. I've forgotten to add the animation. Looks like. See, this was once again a question. If we know, we'll be able to give it here. Otherwise, there is no way we'll be able. Yeah, 1 has spikes, 3 has scales, 2 lives in a burrow. Oh, so it can always run into the burrow, probably. Yeah. But the pangolin we have discussed, no? By any chance, did we discuss anything on pangolin? Which Yeah, Indian pangolin and conservation. So we mentioned this. Interestingly, you mentioned this here also. Look at this. Pangolin curls up into a tight ball, exposing its scale to prevent attack by predators. Yeah. So at least three, we would have been sure that um, we would have been sure that three is there, and then we would have gone into 50-50. Yeah. So if we knew or if we remember that slide, we would have done this, and probably this would have been a 50-50 question. Hedgehog would have been a tough one to answer, because when I looked at it, hedgehog, it looked more like a porcupine. Yeah, so it's a tough one, guys. Doesn't matter. It's okay. We tried our best. With reference to New York Declaration on Forest, which of the following statements are correct? So someone who has read the current affairs for that will be able to answer this. Otherwise, no. Anyone wants to take a shot? I'll give you 30 seconds. A. Okay, 5 is low probability. Very good guess, Abhishek. 5 is low probability at its inception. I think that's how we also, even if we don't know anything about it, we are probably putting it as wrong. So this removes me. So good. So it suddenly become a 50-50. So 4 for sure they are saying is there. But the only question, Abhishek, that you have to guess between 1, 2, and 3, which one is correct? Yeah, legally binding. So is that a clue? Is that a clue? Okay. So if we say legally binding does not seem probable, then the only option is 1, 2, and 4 that Prachi has said, and the answer is indeed correct. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. Yeah, this is a tough one. Take about a minute's time. I'll just be back, guys. Oh, okay. So this question is From a documentary, is it? Okay, interesting, Prachi. So for those who have not looked at the documentary, how would you progress? Okay, someone has already looked at it like Prachi, good for you, Prachi. But in case someone has not looked at it and wants to approach it in a generic way, can you please tell me your approach? And source for any question, Bhavna, source, UPSC is the source. I think UPSC, when they make a question, they have the entire world as the source. Yeah, so in this case, it may be a documentary, but in some other case, one will be taken from one source, another will be a current affairs, third will be taken from a textbook. So I think that is how it is. Great. This is a tough one, right? How do you rate this question? Low, medium, tough? I think it's kind of one of those questions which throws you off. And I'll tell you the reason why. Yeah, it is tough, Vaibhav. Magnetite. Okay, so let's start with the basic and see if we can move from a 0 probability to 50-50. Even that is an achievement, right? So that in the second time when you come back, you feel a little better. Okay, magnetite particles. Which metal or what element are we talking about here? Magnetite. Have you heard of it? Iron. Good. Anyone has a different point of view? Iron. Okay, so there is no opposition when Prachi says an answer. So that's correct. Iron is the right answer. So you must have heard of hematite and magnetite iron ores, no? Yeah. So somewhere iron. So this is correct. Now, with that knowledge, can you somewhat move on to the next level? Which are all the options do you think? Potentially there could be iron. Okay. All of them have iron. Okay. All of them have iron. That's fine. So to that extent, the answer is all of the above. But which one has for sure has iron, guys? Does one surely has iron? Yes, one surely has iron. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that is what I was also thinking, Sheta. 1 and 2 for sure has iron. Okay, I know that. Even with a very limited knowledge of science and technology, I know 1 and 2 for sure has iron. Which means what can I do at the most? I can strike off this option. Then comes microwave stove within homes. Okay, it has iron body, but it has so many other things. Power plant. Magnetite. So if something has to come out of power plant, it can be only in the form of an ash. Okay, because other thing what comes out of power plant, if you look at the byproduct, it is only ash. And when I say ash, both your bottom ash and the fly ash. Telephone lines. You know, my personal thinking was, I thought I understood telephone lines reasonably well. It is either, you know, like copper or aluminium at the max, copper or aluminium. So I was wondering that 5, though it is definitely not there. I mean, I'll tell you my approach. 5 does not seem probable. So I was very happy that the answer is this. 1 seems good, 2 seems good, and 4 seems good. But the UPSC key says all of the above. So I had to, you know, kind of, if anyone has a different point of view, as Arun was saying that the iron is found in all the 5 statements, maybe that would have worked. But in my case, it did not work. Let me be very honest with you on that. So I was really happy to say, Are, they have given an option 1, 2, and 4. So I went with 1, 2, and 4, the areas where one could find a lot of iron. Oh, the documentary also says so, is it? Okay. So this was one tough one, guys. Of all the questions that we have looked at it, this was one tough one I felt. So this is once again a factual question. So either you know you will answer, and let our science student not answer here, both Prachi and Vishanjit. Okay. Most probably you would have studied this in your course. So let others try this one. Which one of the following is a filter feeder? Whatever you understand from that. Have you heard this term before? A, catfish. Okay. Any idea what is a filter feeder? Bhavna says oyster. Okay. Not heard of this term. Not heard. Doesn't read directly. Okay. So how does it eat? If it doesn't eat directly, what do you mean by that, Bhavna? Means doesn't eat directly. I am not fully able to understand what you mean by that. Bishanjit Singh is not able to control himself. He said they have learned it in the class. Okay. Absorbs from minerals in the water. Excellent, excellent. So, 3 cheers to Bishanjit Singh's memory. I also remember we specifically discussed it in a topic when we talked about dead zones. Do you remember dead zones? Here it is. Yeah, this was I think it was dead. Marine pollution. In that we talked about dead zone. So shellfish such as oysters are filter feeders. It so happens that we got lucky. I mean, it's not that we'll be teaching everything that is there in the UPSC paper, but we just got lucky because I thought that this was a very interesting thing, and how oyster and shellfish being a filter feeder increases the concentration. Okay, when they do this in an area of harmful algal blooms, they have higher concentration of toxin. I think this was the reason why we talked about filter feeders. Okay, so it can happen. I mean, I don't expect everyone to remember every single line in the PPT, but this is where this drives home the point of revision. See, imagine like some of you said not heard. Obviously, no, I don't trust your sincerity. You sincerely attend, you also revise. But perhaps that revision was not good enough for you to understand it fully. Okay, so one kind of regret when you don't get an answer correctly is when you don't know. The other kind of more painful regret is when you come back and see, Arey, this was there in the notes, but still I got this question wrong. That's a bigger regret, guys. So whatever limited you have, read it 3 times, 4 times till you feel very confident about it. Okay, so answer is oyster. So Bhavna, your answer is correct and your justification is also correct. Good, guys. In the case of which of the following biogeo, yeah, I think this we have, we must be able to get the answer to this question, I guess. I may not have directly put it, but it can be inferred either through elimination or through direct selection itself. Yeah, Prachi, please go ahead. I mean, I'm not putting restriction for every question. Only the last question I had put restriction because it was a flora and fauna based question. C, all of you say C. Excellent, guys. It is indeed C. So if you look at it, phosphorus. Things wrong with the spelling. Phosphorus. Oh yeah, phosphorus site. So it starts with the statement: Earth's crust contains phosphorus. Okay, in the form of phosphates. But that's a roundabout way. Weathering of rocks. So Earth's crust is there, weathering of rocks. So due to weathering and erosion, phosphates enter river. So why I'm saying is, I want to drive home the point. You may ask, where did you take this from? So there is this book source called as NIOS, National Institute of Open Schooling. A lot of things are taken from NCRT, but a lot of things are also taken from NIOS. So all these 4 statements, they are copy paste from NIOS. The reason why I'm saying this is this drives home the point that reading the basic book never goes waste. One way or the other, you will be able to connect the dots. Okay. So answer is phosphorus. Detrivore. When we talked of food chain, we touched upon detrivore, guys. Okay. So let's start with LP, MP, and HP. Which you think is LP, MP, and HP? See, there are some things which are very sure also. You can say what HP, sir? Earthworm. Earthworm is high probability, absolutely. 3, okay. Shawnli says millipede is also high probability. Good. You all know what millipede is? Excellent. Jellyfish is carnivore. Super. 5 is also high probability. Great, guys. So one person said earthworm, other person says millipede, third person says woodlice. So we have 1, 3, and 5. Yeah. So that is your millipede, black and rare with a large number of legs. It looks very, what do I say? I think kids these days use a word called creepy. My daughter has been using this word for quite some time, so it looks creepy, so to say. So, jellyfish, if you remember, jellyfish would come under carnivore, or what we would call as in the. Do you remember this terminology? Zooplankton in aquatic Yeah, correct. Marathi, correct. You're right. Very scary memories in childhood also, because when you play in the rain, no, you don't realize that this one or two has crossed over your legs. Actually, very scary feeling. Though it does not really harm, the very fact of seeing something moving like this is very scary. So this is zooplankton. So the team says earthworm, millipedes, and wood lice. That's what you have said. 1, 3, and 5. So there is actually an option 1, 3, and 5. Is there by any chance, can it be all of the above? Because we saw all of the above option for many of the questions. How many of you feel there is a small probability that it can be all of the above? In terms of yes or no? Anyone saying yes or no? Small probability of it being all of the above. No. Arun says no. Prachi says no. Good, guys. So at least we are confident, because jellyfish for sure is not a retrieval. That is my starting point. And seahorse also Prachi said. So, which means this is one of those questions. If you look at the previous questions, no, many of them were all of the above. Yeah. But then if you start thinking, okay, in science and technology or in environment, when there is this type of question, then it is all of the above. Don't spend too much time on that analysis. That can be a little detrimental. Okay. In financial world, I'm reading this. Yeah, too much zoology in 2021. You're right, Prachi. So it is going to help Vishenjit Singh. So he's smiling nicely. So I was reading this book called Psychology of Money. It's a very interesting book, by the way. What he says, when you invest in a stock market or mutual fund, first thing what we do is we look at historic returns. How has the fund done, or how has the stock done in the last 3 to 5 years? Yeah. But as in any other aspect of life, even in a financial market, past is not an indicator for future. Past is not an indicator of future. The same thing in case of UPSC also. I think that is a philosophy that they're trying to drill down deep into every aspirant's psyche. Yeah. So there is this beautiful saying in financial world which says, things which have not happened, which have never happened in the past, happen all the time. It's so beautiful, no? Especially in case of financial world. Things which have never happened in the past happen all the time in the future. Yeah, so kind of a seemingly paradoxical statement, but I hope this does not come as a UPSC essay topic or something. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. So this is a direct factual current affairs question, guys. Common carbon metric supported by UNEP has been developed for. Oh, okay, I've also given the answer, so no problem. Let's move forward. So if you have read it, you in the current affairs, you'll be able to answer. Otherwise, you cannot. Which of the following species can establish a symbiotic relationship with other organisms? Can. Okay. Symbiotic relationship with other organisms. Two is high probability, correct? I could also do only that much. So in case you guys are, 1 and 3 are also high probability. I didn't know that. I also thought 2 is high probability. This is too technical question, guys. In case you see something like this, for which you feel you should have at least read the relevant parts of zoology well, better don't attempt such questions. It's okay. Now, if you look at it as a team, if you look at it, I think 7 to 8 out of every 10 questions we've been able to get broadly correct. No? I think that's a good strike rate if you can maintain the same in the actual examination also. So the answer in this case happens to be all the 3. So Prachi, you are right. So he says 2 and you're saying 1 and... Oh, okay. Okay. That is how you're saying. Stuff, man. But for the generalist to know that corals has Nigerian members, stuff, I think. Yeah. No problem. So all those who are from arts and other background, you must be happy that even the engineers and science background, the guys are finding it difficult to answer it. Okay. So it's all the same situation for all. As I mentioned in the very first class, UPSC is consistently brutal to all. Okay. Does not care who you are. Oh, this again, I've given the statement. So it talks about once again a current affairs topic of UN Capital Development Fund and Hyderabad being recognized as a tree city and all. So It's a very factual one. If we have studied it, we'll be able to answer it. Otherwise, no. It's not one question where we could zero in on and get the answer. This question is a good question, I think. Test the logic. And yeah, you could say somewhat logic, somewhat knowledge also. Because I find of all the three, only two options potentially confusing. Two I could easily strike off. D, Abhishek, okay. Any other option which you think is confusing? Yeah, A, good. Arun, you're saying A because the first time when I read it, my confusion was between A and D. B and C, I was sure it is not. Yeah, you're right. Any rationale you want to provide, Abhishek and Arun, why you have chosen the respective option? Means it could be read somewhere or some other logic. Any rationale you have, or you read it somewhere? Yeah, that is true, Arun. It may have introduced it, and it belongs to environment. But what they are saying is nodal agency for implementation. Effective implementation. Okay, but it can go either ways. In this case, yeah, the answer is tribal affairs, Ministry of Tribal Affairs. It is this kind of question that you have to be a little careful about, where you feel two options seem to be fitting the bill. Oh man. One second, just one second. Many places I have just not mentioned the animation. One second. Okay. Fix the animation issue. Yeah. Vegetation of savanna. So same funda, LP, MP, HP. Who will tell me? Four is high probability, two is high probability. The forest development in savanna is kept in check by one or more of combination of conditions. So what they are basically saying is, we all know that savanna is grass as well as some trees, spaced out very much. Okay, it is some trees spaced out very much. What prevents? So basically, what they're saying is savanna is grass plus trees. The question is, what prevents more trees to grow in savanna, converting it into a forest land? That's the question. Okay. So some of you are saying 4, seasonal rainfall. Okay. 2 is true. Fire. Okay. You say fire is high probability. 4, low probability. 4 is a low probability. You're saying seasonal rainfall. Seasonal rainfall doesn't occur there. So what kind of rainfall occurs there, Arun, according to you, in a savanna grassland? 3 is high probability. Okay, Sheta also says 3. Why do you think 3 is a high probability, Sheta and Vaibhav? Let's go one by one. 3, why high probability? And yeah, seasonal rain occurs. So we can also go back to our class and see if we can get any clue in that. Oh, sorry. Do have scattered trees. So now let's start with what we have, guys. Fire. Why fire? Because savanna is quite hot. Yeah, if you remember the grassland that we have discussed with the tiger, picture of the tiger. I think you should remember this one second. Huh? Yeah, I think we are here. It's a temperate grassland, tropical grassland. Do you recollect this? This picture? See how dry this is. Very, very dry. Rainfall is there, can be highly seasonal. Can be highly seasonal. Now, if the rainfall is seasonal, can a forest happen? If the rainfall is highly seasonal, yeah, it is limited to a particular point in time of the year. Can it produce like rainforest? Can it produce a thick forest? Yeah, monsoon is seasonal rainfall. You're right, Arun. You're right. See, generally, a seasonal rainfall is not something that you would associate with a forest or growth of a forest. Okay, which means forest development in such areas generally kept in check, in my view, also due to seasonal rainfall. I think. Yeah, but do we have an option 2, 3, 4? Yes, we have. This, yeah. But you guys need not agree with me or this answer key that is given. Any other point of view you have? Any other point of view you have? See, one logic, this burrowing animals and termites, they can be in grassland, but they are also found in a big way in desert. But they are not the reason why the grassland cannot become a desert. Are you able to understand what I'm saying? They may or may not be there, but they are not. See, look at the question. It says forest development in such areas is generally kept in check by one or more of the combination of following conditions. So forest condition, it is not due to this for sure. Yeah. So even if you look at it by this, you can strike out these two, and then you just figure out what is the one that is causing the savanna from becoming a forest. It's a tough one. It's a tricky one. I agree, but you can at least convert it into a 50-50 type of question. Okay. Consider the following statements. So it's a broad sense of proportion that we need to have as far as water resources are concerned. One is wrong. Okay, Arun is confident that one is wrong. Two only. Okay, we studied. Yeah, I think what was the topic? Water chart. Yeah. You are right. I think we have studied this. It may not be in this PowerPoint. Something like I would have said that there are 100 units of water, of which 97 is in sea, and 3 is fresh water. Out of this 3, 2 is in polar ice caps. Do you remember? And about a little more than 2.4. Then 0.6 is your groundwater. Do you remember this? Yeah, something like that, guys. Okay. So in this, the answer is 2. Now, please go back to the slide and refresh yourself. So this is environment. This is also economics question. Huh? They're talking of exports. They're talking of primarily environment, but one point is about exports. So personally, this is one of the most nutritious trees that we used to have in our house for a very long time. Oh, is it so? Yeah, actually you are right. I don't know. Again, if you say what is the source, I have no clue. Can someone try statement 3, guys? Because to me it looked like you could say yes or no for statement 3. That is what I felt. Because others are a little going above the head. Yeah, seems to be yes for me also. Tamarind is one of the minor non-timber forest produce, as they call it. Yeah, but if 3 is correct, all that I can do is I can strike off one option. Option A, I can strike off. Okay. Now we have to figure out what about 1. The leguminous evergreen tree. Leguminous. Yeah, so that was the clue I also think, Prachi. 1 is a low probability. I also tend to think so. Can't be a legume. Good thinking. Oh, but if that is there, then I am able to get the answer directly. Let's just wait for some time. Are we missing something? So 3, 4, and 5. Minor forest produce. India exports tamarind. Seeds of moringa and tamarind can be used in the product. Yeah, 5 also seems like a high probability thing. 5 is a high probability thing for me. Yeah, which means this and this both can be there. So even if I strike off this and this both can be there. Then the question is between whether 1 is correct or 2 is correct. 2, it says tamarind tree is endemic to South Asia. Oh, it says endemic to South Asia, which means nowhere in the world can you find tamarind tree other than South Asia. It looks a little bit of a stretch, no? Don't you think so? Because the growth of tamarind tree, it's not a very water intensive or it requires a lot of care. It can just grow anywhere. Yeah. Imagine Africa. I would imagine it very difficult to think that tamarind does not grow in Africa, or for that matter, certain parts of South America. Are you able to understand? Yeah, they said South Asia. It's there in Southeast Asia also. Yeah. So 2 for sure seems wrong. So by that logic, I think 3, 4, 5. Okay. So this is one of those questions where you force yourself a little bit more. No? Apply yourself. For example, the drumstick tree. It's not a leguminous tree. Okay. So I think these are the clues. Or you take a step back and understand. Can something as common as a tamarind tree be endemic to South Asia? Seems very difficult to believe. Okay. Any idea? So this is once again a direct current affairs question. Yeah, in case you know, if you have read the current affairs, you know it. Otherwise, you would not. Answer is developing genetically modified crops. Yeah, correct, Weber. Correct. Volgard, correct. So this is a conceptual question. So if you have read the concept, somewhere you'll be able to attempt or at least narrow in the options better. For high probability, practice of mulching. Yes, you are right, Arun. Let me put this as high probability. Permaculture farming discourages monocultural practices, but conventional farming are predominant. This is also high probability. Yeah, exactly. So 1 and 4 high probability. Conventional chemical farming can cause increase in soil salinity, but occurrence of such phenomena is not observed in permaculture. I would say this is also high probability. This is the definition of permaculture, means one of the inputs of or the ingredients of permaculture. Conventional chemical farming is easily possible in arid and semi-arid regions. What do you think of this? Yeah, 3 is what? NP means no probability. Yeah? Is that your definition? Conventional farming, I think the clue is this word here, easily. If conventional farming was so easily in arid and semi-arid region, it would have been a different story altogether. No? Yeah. So to me, 3 for sure seems incorrect here. 3 for sure seems incorrect. So if we just remove 3, and then we just said that, oh, 1, 2, and 4 exist. So perfect, no? We got the answer to this question. Palm oil. Consider the following statements. Consider the following statements with reference to palm oil. Is native to Southeast Asia. Okay. High probability. One you are saying is high probability. Okay. Palm oil is a raw material for some industries producing lipstick and perfumes. No idea on that for me. Palm oil can be used to produce biodiesel. I think this kind of looks like, yeah, I mean, can be used, even though it is a fuel part, but it is saying can be used. No? Why do you say it is far-fetched? It can be used, I believe. Yeah. So I'll start with the one in which I am very confident about. So I'll start with 3. 3 means I'm able to strike off only one option. 3 is medium probability, maybe for blending. I understand what you're saying, because you're saying it's not a seed and all that. So that's fine. Again, Southeast Asia. So we are saying between BC, palm oil is a raw material for some industries producing. Yeah. If you look at it, when we were young, means when I was studying in maybe 6th or 7th standard, so we always used to have this quiz competition, land of 1,000 lakes, land of rising sun. In those days, okay, just like 25 years back, in those days, the land of palm oil was originally Nigeria. Nigeria was called as the land of palm oil then, but now if you Google land of palm oil, you don't get Nigeria, because there are so many countries like Malaysia and Indonesia which are producing a lot of palm oil. Okay, what he's asking is palm oil tree is native to South Asia. Okay, native means it originally belongs to South Asia. I think this is a big googly. Yeah, native to South Asia. He's not saying endemic, he's saying native to South Asia, which means originally it was in South Asia, then it spread elsewhere. Yeah, exactly right, Bhavna. I believe it is native to South America and to some extent Africa. Yeah. So, so I think when I looked at this question, the statement 1 appeared like a big googly. Yeah. So, so which is where the answer is also 2 and 3. So sometimes it happens, yeah. It can create confusion, because if palm oil means Malaysia, because you would have studied in economics or some other aspect that Malaysia is one of the and Indonesia are 2 large palm oil producing and exporting countries. But he's asking of palm oil tree, so it's a very bad googly, I think, but that is what it is. Okay. So we just have 2 or 3 more questions. Let's finish it. Sorry to keep you waiting here. With reference to Indus River system, the following 4 rivers. Okay. So this is geography, guys. I mean, if you look at our Indus Water Treaty, we discussed Indus Water Treaty, right? In that there was a map. Please have a look at the map. Please have a look at the map. Okay, and you'll figure out. And please don't forget, have a look at the map. There it very clearly says which river goes and connects where. Yeah, so you'll find that the answer is Satluj. Any idea on this question? Global Ocean Commission grants license for seabed exploration. India has received licenses for seabed mineral exploration. Rare earth minerals are present on the seafloor in international waters. Why is 1 wrong, Bhavna? Global Ocean Commission grants license. Is the organization wrong, or are you saying they don't grant license? Other organization, okay? Organization is wrong. What is that organization that grants license? Have you come across this term called International Seabed Authority? May have discussed it. Not sure. One second. Oh. Yeah, here it is. International Seabed Authority regulates activities. So this was deep sea mining, once again, which we discussed under marine pollution. Yeah, perfect, guys. International Seabed Authority. So we got it right. So one is wrong. So the moment one is wrong, the good thing is three options go away. This is the advantage of knowing the facts very well. Because when Bhavna said that one is incorrect, this is as good as she saying what the correct option is. Because if you are sure that one is incorrect, the only option that stays is option B. Yeah, sometimes you can get lucky. You know, by striking off one, you're able to directly come to the answer. Rare, but it is possible. Yeah, I think this you will be able to answer. Least water efficient crop, which means output divided by exactly output of the crop divided by amount of water that it takes. In the context of India's preparation for climate smart agriculture, consider the following statements. Okay, so this is once again asking about a specific project and the organization. Yeah, so all organizations are important, but this ICRISAT keeps coming in news now. Just have a watch on ICRISAT in general. Okay, this option B, all the three are correct. Yeah, I think we are in the last 2 or 3 questions, I guess. What forest is this? Concept. They have asked a lot of conceptual questions also. I'm pleasantly surprised in 2021. So always remember, when I told 10 is for concept, 40 for biodiversity, and 50 for pollution, global warming, and climate change, 2021 seems to be very different, guys. A lot of questions on biodiversity. It looks like maybe 50% of the questions are biodiversity, as Prachi was saying, and maybe 25% is on concepts or application of concepts. Oh, 2 of you, both of you are saying D. Anyone? Litter decomposes canopy. Superb. Good. So in case someone has any difficulty in what we are discussing, first it says leaf litter decomposes fast. So when will something decompose? You need high temperature and high moisture or humidity. Okay. So this dry will not come. Okay. Someone may think perhaps mangrove because it is temperature and moisture is high. Okay. Coniferous will also not come because high temperature is required. Soil surface is almost bare. Apart from trees, vegetation is largely composed of plants that up to the canopy. So they reach canopy. So canopy, the moment you see canopy, you can cross mangrove. And growing epiphytes. If you remember, I said that your tropical rainforest is either tall trees or you have plants that grow on them, epiphytes. Okay. So these are all the points through which you can reach the right answer of tropical rainforest. With reference to street lighting, we have not really discussed this, I think. Maybe in one of the government schemes, I just touched upon some of the features of LED way back, maybe in the first or second class, but we may not have discussed it so specific. Doesn't matter. Let's start. Let's attempt to at least classify the statements as based on probability. Okay, one is wrong. Okay. Sodium lamps have longer lifespan than LED. This for sure is wrong. No? This for sure is wrong. So now the only option that you have is A and C. Significant color advantage. So coming to first statement, if you stand under a sodium vapor lamp, yeah, you can do this experiment also. Stand under a sodium vapor lamp, see if there is a shadow that is produced. If shadow is produced, means the light is concentrated, means it is not 360. If the shadow is diffused, then it means it is 360. Are you able to understand what I'm saying? Just go and stand near a sodium vapor and go and stand near an LED. Okay, in both the cases, let the person stand here. If the light makes a shadow of this person here, then it is not 360. Why? Because it is a little focused. If the person stands, but the shadow is very, very weak, means it will appear as if there are 2-3 shadows. Then it's an indication that it's a 360-degree light. Now, with this definition, can someone tell me sodium vapor there is shadow? How about LED? How about LED? Actually, LED is known for sharper shadows. Correct. That if you are confident about third, you go with third. I was more confident about 1. Okay, so I kind of decided that the option is C. Yeah, so go back and find out that the LED ones are the ones which have a stronger or a more direct kind of a light. Okay, but the color advantages of LED is better. Color advantage of LED is better. This is a tough one. I feel tough one unless any one of you has seen this in current affairs when you wrote in 2021. Bisphenol A. Which of the following kinds of plastic? So within plastic, they're asking which kind of plastic. Bisphenol. So the answer seems to be B, polycarbonate. Yeah, I could not get this answer. Once again, I'm sure this would have come in current affairs. Triclosan is most likely present in which of the following? Yeah, anyone wants to try? I think this is the last question. D. Good, guys. So D is the right answer. So this brings us to the end of our discussion on the question papers. Anything else you feel we can do differently, or anything more can be added? Any suggestions? So just 2 minutes to 9 o'clock. I'll spend 2 minutes with all of you, and after that, if someone has doubt, they can stay back. That's anyway there. So BP is mentioned on drinking plastic water. Okay. I guess so, Bhavna. Even I have not come across in 2022, though I have not come across triclosan, but maybe in 21 it was there in news. Anything else? Any other point that anyone has to discuss, or any question anyone of you have, guys? Or overall, you felt this was somewhat useful, or anything that you would want changed? Please let me know. Okay, so if there are no points, I think we'll call it a day. What is it? Mains crash course. Oh, okay. Hyderabad research. Good, guys. I think please try to incorporate some of the principles that we have discussed in today's class, even in other subjects. And